gonna do it. I'm gonna trade my clerk for a Rockstar dame. Might even get my brother to change his game. Cause we all just wanna work with title rock stars and sell some hilltop houses closing 15 more. The cities come easy and the closings go quick. We'll all stay busy cause we just don't quit.
Welcome to today's episode of the Rockstar Closers podcast at the Rockstar Vault. We have today Chad Levine, and if you know anyone that laughs with such a big laugh, it is Chad. Absolutely, 100%.
Otherwise, they're
Contagious.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So, Chad and I met a number of years ago, right? When did we meet? I forget.
Oh, that's a great question. Is that the first question?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was a number of years ago.
Oh, wow, it's been
Wow,
a while.
I stumped him. He actually had
been a while.
5 seconds of delay.
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while. Before Opus Elite.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was with the other spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just a little background. I wanted to do a podcast, and my first thought was Chad, because Chad is just so outgoing. He's so unscripted. He can hold things together when I kind of can't in these situations. And I just thought we would be a really good team together to do these. So I did think I need to interview him so that everybody can kind of get a feel for what's behind the big laugh. So
I love that. Thank you. That's a great intro.
Yeah.
What's behind the big laugh?
Yeah, what's behind the big laugh? So take us to your childhood. Where are you from?
So originally born in Northeast Philadelphia in Jeans Hospital in Fox Chase section, not too far from a Wawa. We moved over, God, how old was I? We moved over to Huntington Valley. It wasn't even far because Northeast and Huntington Valley are super close.
Right.
I think I was 3. My parents built a home on Philmont Avenue.
Wow. That's a busy street.
Very busy street, which we actually live on a busy street now, my wife and I, so it's familiar territory for me.
There you
go. Grew up there. That's where I was pretty much spent most of my post 22. That's kind of pathetic because I lived in my mom's basement for a little while. I shouldn't say that. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed Huntington Valley and Lower Moreland. It was a great. Do you want me to keep elaborating on that, or?
So where did you go to school?
High school, I went to all schools in Lower Moreland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, small, nice. I think I graduated with less than 200 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's small.
I've always been in smaller schools, smaller classes, and I like that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get a better connection to your peers and your teachers, right?
Yeah, and we literally we had one elementary, one middle, and one high school, so we all grew up together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you went off to college.
That was a mixed bag.
and if I haven't mistaken what I heard, didn't you get like some kind of back tattoo when you were in?
That's like fast forward.
Oh,
no,
okay.
That's actually later. The tattoos started like after college, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
we're going into the These are good questions.
You kept on your wild.
This
was
a right hook, Nicole. Are we on tattoos? Do I keep going with those?
No. Let's back up. So since it didn't happen in college, college you went to school for.
So I ultimately wanted to get a degree in pharmacy because my family's business was in pharmacy. So my father opened up a pharmacy in 1976 in the Bloca de Oro, which is basically it's the barrio, which is the neighborhood of Spanish-speaking people in Philadelphia.
Okay.
It is the largest population of Spanish-speaking individuals in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And still today, it's in business.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, do other family members work for your dad?
No, family members, no.
Okay.
No, you work for, so no one works for my dad. They all work, I took over and bought the business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So I own the business. I've owned the business, wow, like, this is going to really age me, almost 20 years now.
you're a pharmacist, a full-blown
I am a
pharmacist.
I got a doctorate in pharmacy from Temple University.
Okay.
And you want me to go into that?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I, despite what you may see now, which is a jovial, very rambunctious, happy-go-lucky guy, which I've always been, I sat down with an advisor at the School of Pharmacy when I was a junior in high school, and I said, what do I have to do to get in here? And she said, you just have to get good grades. I was like, do you care where the grades come from? She said, what do you mean? I was like, well, do I have to go to the Ivy League, or like, what's the deal? Like,
right.
What's the whole process? So she told me, she's like, no, we accept people from, all different colleges, and you come in for interviews, and it's competitive, and blah, 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 blah. Fine, okay, no problem. So what I said to myself is, well, if she's telling me I can go anywhere, I just have to have the best grades.
Right.
Well, that translated to me. I'm going to do a lot of research, figure out which teachers are going to give me the best grades, and that's what I'm going to end up doing. I'm not going to say I didn't earn it,
right.
But I did a bunch of research. So I took I took classes at multiple different schools and campuses.
Okay.
Which composite to a 4.0. And I even got a little money. I got a little scholarship.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So how do you go from being a pharmacist and doing that to mortgage?
You ever meet a pharmacist? I'm just curious. What do you like? So when you think of pharmacists and people that are friends with me in pharmacy school in the past, I hope they don't take offense to this, but do I seem like a typical pharmacist?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's not my thing. It's not a passion.
It's got to be a really boring job. Like
so,
just cutting up pills every day.
Let me tell you, from an education perspective, it's one of the most highly educated. So pharmacy is built around how the drugs work in the body. And if you don't know anything about it, it's the hardest part, right? Surgery is surgery. I give it to you guys. But outside of that, you're prescribing drugs, right? So if you're not doing surgery, you're prescribing drugs.
Right.
And do we know more about the prescribers? Yes. Sorry, I don't mean to offend anyone. My wife is a prescriber. She's extremely smart and an expert diagnostician. I'm not a diagnostician, right? But I am an expert in drugs. So I do know all there is to know about drugs. We have a very extensive education in it. The problem with pharmacy is that there was a massive influx of what I call the non-clinical side because of the money. And it became an issue with the whole industry because our backbone should be in developing drugs. Right? But when you put us out with a smock and say, here's the milk, and along with everything else, it diminishes the value of the profession. Okay. So when you think back to the old school medicine man, that's a pharmacist. It really is. Every major drug and things like that, I can point it back to a pharmacist. Wow. Like all the big breaks that have happened, then drug companies, it's a pharmacist. A lot of big drug companies have pharmacist CEOs or things like that. So when you look at it that way, it is an extremely underutilized body of knowledge. Wow. And the reason is because of the money. When you graduated, you were getting 150 grand plus a sign-on bonus at 24, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. Well, here's the problem. It's shifted a lot because of the way reimbursement as insurance has happened. So now that's the most you'll make. And that's
so you're
not
like
really
capped?
Legal. You're capped. It's actually lower. Oh. Yeah, it's not. It ain't what it was.
Wow.
It ain't what it was. But my drive has always been in business development and entrepreneurship. So that's always how I've looked at it. So while that all sounded super negative, I have people now, because I still own the pharmacy, that I absolutely adore. They've been with me for over 10, 15 years. We do provide a really value-added service to a very underserved community. I'm very passionate about that. I have very deep relationships in that community, and I'm still working on things that are more modern, digital age things that I still believe I can do, and really, apply what I call my spice to that particular part.
Right.
That's what drives me. It's the development and the entrepreneurial aspect of that business.
So you said you're entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
What else have you? Let's talk about that. What else have you? I know you do domain names.
Yeah.
He actually helped me with my domain. He said you need to get that rockstarclosers.com, and I got it. So So talk about that. What are you?
So I think that's been my lifelong passion, right? if you were to ask me what's the one thing that drives you, I think it's helping people and brands and even myself come to life. Like I'm super obsessed with it, like a name, a look, a logo, a feel.
Yeah.
Because I'm the old adage that if you dress like it and
Yeah.
you act like it, you become it. And which is really the whole mantra behind Superstar Lender, which is I knew that if I called myself that, there was going to be a certain level that I had to live up to. And I think a lot of people feel that way when they work with me.
Right.
Because I want them to walk away with that. It's like, holy, yeah, he is a superstar.
Yeah.
That's the feel and vibe you want. It's same thing with you. I'm sure you chose that name for a reason, right?
Absolutely.
So how did it start? It's a really good question. So
But why not like Dr. Mortgage?
yeah,
It so fits.
It's not superstar though.
That's not a secret. You're right.
It's not as bold and obnoxious, I guess.
Yeah. I gotcha.
So let's see. Entrepreneurial. I think my first stab at it was when we were it started with Beanie Babies with my dad. And I tried to buy, and we never got to successfully sell any because we were waiting for the market to just like go. So I convinced my dad to like buy these expensive teddy bears, right? Thinking that like, this is it, man. Like we are going to preserve the tags. They're going to grow in value. We used to go to trade shows. I used to look at the imperfections and the stitching and oh yeah, I got really good at it.
Oh, wow.
They're all worth nothing. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
that venture failed. So that was that. When I was a junior in high school, a few friends of myself applied for a patent on the ability to store information on a hard drive. And we went super broad. We were like, oh, well, if we go broad, everyone's gonna pay us. Like, oh yeah.
What does that mean, super broad?
Super broad means you try and cover anything that could be applicable to it. So instead of us just saying, this, and it's funny how this started. So we were going to create the original YouTube. We wanted to create a place for aspiring filmmakers to upload their actual works of art for people to see, right?
Okay.
This was before YouTube was big.
Yeah.
So like I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, if we can get the legal right to upload and store anything, I'm so smart, right? Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm realizing I'm way behind on this. But I paid some patent attorney who sold me on the idea that this is possible, which it wasn't.
Geez.
Thanks a lot, dude. Great search you did. So I have a 100-page piece of toilet paper if you ever want to see it. FYI. So that was that. Let's see, what else? I tried a whole bunch. We had a website called assuredeal.com, which was going to be a coupon website for businesses down the shore. Shore deal, get it?
I get it.
Yeah, so like people would come down the shore and they'd get a coupon. And I never forget this. My friend and I drove down, had the literature in our hand. We're going business to business. And after about 6 rejections, we're like, yeah, you want to get lunch? Like, yeah. That was the end of the shore deal. So that one didn't work out. And then as far as the .coms went, so this is a good story. My brother started in the pharmacy with me because it was a family business. He is not a pharmacist.
Yeah.
And we would sit there together and I'd watch him and I'd be like, you really, like, this isn't your thing, man. Like, you don't like this. Like, I'm a pharmacist. At least I can somewhat relate.
Right.
Like, he'd be in the back. He'd be like, yeah, this sucks. I was like, you got to get out of here, man. Like, this is mentally. So, like, his passion was always cars. He knows cars better than anybody in the world. Like, he just knows them really well, but he knows the exotics. He knows like what a good value is. And his niche is, if you're going to buy a pre-owned Porsche or a pre-owned Mercedes or something that's extremely expensive, it's still above the average price.
Right.
You got to know what you're buying. And that's really where he excels because he understands that market really, really well. Like hyper expensive premium pre-owned cars. Like that's really where he excelled in. And I pushed him. I said, "Listen, you gotta get out of here, man. Like you gotta go. Like you gotta go. We'll figure it out." Like he and I have always done things together because we just worked well as brothers, and we understood that to work well together, you can't be near each other. Like you have to like get out of everyone's way.
Right.
And you do your thing, and I do my thing. So when he went out and did it, I said, "Well, we got to get him a domain name." Like, we got to get him something good.
How many domain names do you own?
That's not something good. Hundreds of names that are all in the negative. But I became obsessed with domains, and I'll tell you why. My thought was, you have 30 seconds to get someone's attention, probably less, right? And it's the elevator pitch. So you're going to talk to them, and they're going to have to remember one thing about you. They're not going to remember your phone number.
Right.
They're not going to remember your email. But if they remember superstarlender.com, then I did my job.
Right.
Right? So I liked the fact that it was clickable, that it was short, that it was memorable, and it was your ability to actually, you don't need a brick and mortar store. Right?
True.
If you own that digital space and that digital real estate, then you can take off.
How did you, what did you meet somebody? Like,
how did I learn?
How did you learn
Trial
mortgage?
and error. Oh, mortgage. Oh,
Yeah.
do you want me to finish domains, or am I going right to mortgage?
No, we're going to mortgage.
Okay. And that sums up domains. You want to hear my biggest sale ever?
All right, tell us your biggest-
Muscleminerals.com. I sold it for $10,000.
Get out.
Yeah, I bought it for $8.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a great
Yeah, it was a good find.
ROI.
Yeah, but that, like, collectively, I'm still in the negative. But there's that one.
But you're going to keep going with the domains. You're not going to let go of that, right?
Yeah, like, I'm starting to slim it out to do things that are like, but I still think, like, how I start businesses now is with a domain. It sounds weird. It's like a way of thinking. But if I can get the domain and then get the Gmail and get the YouTube and get the Instagram, it's like a digital sphere.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, but go ahead. Now, what's next? Mortgages.
Mortgages. Like, how did you transition into mortgage?
Okay. 2008, I graduated pharmacy school. And we're in an area that is a tougher part, North Philadelphia. But the one part of it that I always took a liking to or understood was real estate. Because it was affordable, right? Because the entry is affordable. Now it comes with other stuff.
Right.
But there's some sort of ability to get something that's affordable and make it cash flow and have it appreciate. It's real estate 101. It was the simplest form of real estate investment, right?
Okay.
And I'll never forget this. I had, what did I have in the bank account? Like $25,000. It was nothing. I was like a young pharmacist, whatever, having fun, spending stupid, doing whatever. And I looked and I said to my dad, when I was living in the basement at the time, I was like, I'm going to go buy a property. He's like, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm like, why didn't you buy up this whole area? When he got in the 70s, it was like nothing.
Pennies
right?
on the dollar.
Nothing.
Yep.
Like nothing. So I remember going door to door. I was unlicensed in anything, and I would go up and down this corridor in Fifth Street. It was like a main commercial strip, and I'm like, well, if I could get something here, it's going to hold value because it's still the artery of the
Right.
like you know, our guest was talking about before. If you can get a piece of that main street, it's still a main street. So I'd go in and out and get in and out, and I would talk to the people that ran the businesses. What's your landlord like? Blah blah blah. I walk into this one business, and he's like, I don't know. I never met the guy. I said, what do you mean you haven't met the guy? He's like, I never met him. He's like, he's not here. He lives in Arizona, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, do you send him rent? And he's like, no. He's like, no, I don't send him rent, nothing. I'm like, well, this is what I need. I need an opportunity. So I said, all right, I'm going to look this guy up. So I went home, looked up who owned the property, looked at him in the white pages. And
The
I
white
said to
pages.
myself, yeah, whatever I call it at that point.
He's dating himself.
Yeah, white pages. And I'll never forget, I found him and I called him and I'm like, hey, and his name's Fred. I'm not to say his last name, so I'm good. I was like, hey, Fred, you know, I work in the area. I was noticing your building. You know, I heard you're not collecting rent. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, are you interested in selling? And he said, no, I'm not really interested. He's like, yeah, give me $100,000. And I'm like, give you $100,000 for a piece of crap? Well, no, dude. Like, no, not at all. But so I hung up the phone. And I said, all right, let me try this another way. I called him a week later. I said, Fred, let me ask you a question. I said, you're not collecting any money on it, right? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, what if I collect money for you and I send you some and I keep some? Which is an agent.
Wow.
Which is an agent. You're not supposed to do that.
Right.
I broke the law. What are you going to do? So I said, all right, Fred, I'll do that. So for a year, I would go there and I would just basically just collect the guy's rent. I'd be like, Fred, you know, Fred, I'm collecting for Fred, whatever, and I'd send Fred some, and I'd keep some, and I'd send Fred some, and I'd keep some. And I was, like, in essence, a property manager at that point.
Yeah.
And, you know, I shouldn't be doing that. But the reason for doing that is that eventually I was going to find a way to buy the building.
Right.
Right. So a year comes, and Fred's fat and happy getting his rent. And I call Fred, and I'm like, hey, Fred, I'm done. He's like, what do you mean you're done? I'm like, I'm not going into that property anymore and doing that because it's running down. I was like, have you seen it? He's like, no. I was like, it's falling apart, man. I was like, the property's falling apart. He's like, oh, blah, blah. I'm like, bye, Fred, I'm done. I was like, but it was strategy for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, watch, Fred's going to call me back. So 2 days later, his wife calls and says, yeah, we don't want the building anymore. I said, okay. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 25 grand. And he said, that's too low, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you have any other options? He said, nope. So I said, all right, this is my final offer, $33,000. He said, okay. So he takes
Get out of here.
He takes $33,000 for this building. And the building itself, like upstairs, needed a ton of work. There was 2 floors, and then there was a business down below. Mm-hmm. So I had 25 grand in the bank. Dad, I need some money. And I'm yelling this from the basement. Hey, Dad. And so my plan was I was going to buy it, do a cash out refinance, redo the whole building. So here's how the plan goes. I get an appraisal, appraised at 180. So I'm in it at 33, appraised at 180, right?
Was that fixed up or not
no,
fixed up?
not fixed up. Not fixed
Man,
up. So, yeah.
Fred is not smart.
So Fred's stupid. Yeah,
well, he wasn't collecting rent, so.
So long story short, and that's how I learned about financing. Getting that loan was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, because it was commercial.
Right, right.
You had to do this and that and this and this and do a little hula hoop. And it went through all this stuff. But in the process, I learned. I understood it. I understood how important finance is to real estate.
Right.
Right. And I started to realize that there is no one without the other. They are really need each other to work. Right?
Sure.
And that's where I started to fall in love with it. And that property worked out. I ended up buying a couple more down there and have slowed down since. But the impetus to getting into the mortgage space was I always wanted to be a realtor. I always felt like I would do well with it, but I don't have the physical time. There's no way I could do it. So I used to go to my buddy's house, and he'll name nameless, and he'd be having fun on his couch, let's say, and I'd say, dude, what do you do? And he's like, yeah, I'm a mortgage broker. I'm like, what the hell is that? What do you mean a mortgage broker? He's like, yeah, and I can't remember, it was like 2011 or 12. And he did nothing. He was like, he's my buddy, lazy. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I guess at that time, like things were just better. The rates were whatever. So he's like, I made 200 grand for my couch last year. I was like, yo, if this guy can do that, I can figure this out, right? So at that time, my wheels start going.
Right.
And things start moving. And I'm like, oh, I want to get into real estate. I think mortgages make sense because I can't physically be everywhere, but I like the social elements of it. And what put me over the edge is I spoke to a guy, I'll never forget it, and I give him kudos, named Joel Funston. My parents are doing their thing, and I'm talking to him, like I'm helping my parents on their place down the shore. He's like, why don't you become a mortgage broker? And I'm like, yeah, man, like let's talk. So we went out to dinner, and he and his boss talked to me, and they're like, yeah, like we'll get you going, like you'll learn about it. That was it. I got licensed in 16. It wasn't Joel, but the guy he was with gave me horrible mentorship. But the horrible mentorship taught me to learn. Yeah. And you have to understand mortgages first. Right. You can't sell a mortgage unless you understand the process. Right. And it's not difficult, but you have to learn it. Like you have to understand start to finish what's involved so you can manage the process. And when you get good at that, it all falls in. And what I've done over time is figured out where I need to get better and then perfected that. So first it was process, then it was pricing and interest rates because people always shop numbers. And then it was understanding creativity. So that's where I'm at now. So I started with the basic, but now I'm selling loans people can't do. Yeah.
So what kind of loans is that? Is that like tough credit?
Anything you can imagine. I always say if it's not conventional, and for conventional by definition is mainstream, right? And how you describe lending is very simple. Everyone can do conventional, right? Conventional, you can go anywhere and get a conventional loan. The pricing will be very, very similar, and people will just fight over your business. Just the way it is. Right. The only difference in the business at that point is your service. And that's where I say not everyone's me. And it's true. It's just true. But what we specialize in now is people that can't go conventional for all different reasons. They don't have the cash. The business isn't showing enough. The property is unique. It doesn't meet conventional guidelines. I can go on and on and on. There's a whole world of unconventional lending.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't go there because they don't understand it. But I think since when I bought that building and understood the complexities of it, I've really learned the ins and outs. And that's where I think we shine. I should say we, because my partner, Sean, I love him to death. In residential, I have my own thing. In commercial, it's Sean and I, but we're really good at it. We're really good at applying the same level of service in the commercial space, which is very hard to find.
So Sean's your partner?
In the commercial space,
In the commercial space.
Yeah.
And Concord Financial, that's your
Is
company?
residential.
Is
Yep.
that 100% you?
No, Concord I don't own. A guy named Jim Ryan owns that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I hang my license under that, and the reason is he can have fun with the bank audits.
I hear that.
So I pay a price for that.
Yeah.
But he's great. I'm happy to be where I am. I've done a couple different stints. I've done big bank, big name lender. That was the worst experience ever. Like when I have to wait on hold to talk to my own company.
That's rough.
No. So what I've learned is to be a good lender, you have to be able to control the process. To control the process, you have to have good relationships.
Yeah.
With everyone. It's the same with everything.
Sure.
But the people that I use now and the places I go will crush it. Like I will crush the price, I will crush the speed, and that's built by design. It's the right team members, right lenders.
What's the difference between, just for our audience?
Yeah.
What's the difference between a big bank or, just a mortgage company and a brokerage or a broker?
So by definition, a broker is a professional shopper, right? That's the easiest way to put it. You will get the best service and the best rates and the best products because that's what we do. And we can go between lenders. If a market shifts mid-deal and I have to switch a lender, I will. If I can save you money, I'll do it. I'll look at that bank and say, sorry, things have gotten better. If I can save you an eighth or a quarter or a half of a point within the 45, 30 to whatever days, I'll move the deal. And what gives the consumer the advantage is that it's a completely different level of concierge service. It just is. And everyone watching this who I work for a direct lender, I can do that. Talk the talk, walk the walk. That's what I always say.
Right.
You call me at any time, it's gonna happen. You're gonna get locked, it's gonna get done. If I need to move mountains to make something happen, I can because that's where we've been. The bank pays us. It costs you nothing. Why would you not want to use a broker?
Right.
That's the better question. Why would you not?
Right. Do you still have the building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kept all the. I try and keep the investments that make sense.
Right.
I try and build as much buy and hold as I can. I think my biggest struggle with my own investment is I'm very conservative. Like I'm always looking for the home run, which is not that common. So it takes me years to buy real estate. Like some people that are just like, oh yeah, I want to buy. I can't do it. Like if it doesn't line up and it doesn't feel right, I can't do it.
Yeah, I have the same problem. I can't.
Yeah.
You want to, but then you hesitate, but then you miss out on opportunity. But
but it's I think it's our way of doing it. Right.
So you said you're conservative about buying property, but you're not so conservative with getting tattoos on your back. So what else don't we know about Chad Double D?
So yeah, the body art is not sanctioned by my wife at all.
Only one tattoo or multiple?
I have 7. Yeah, I have 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 7 tattoos, most of which are in some sort of Southeast Asian language. Does
that mean you have Chinese writing on your body?
I have one in Hebrew. Yeah, I mean, I can't really go back to the school of thinking there. My wife's asked me to have them removed.
And are you going to honor
and
that
I don't
request?
want to remove it, and I'll tell you why. I think it's a piece of my history. It's like part of my story, right?
Okay.
And I don't know, is that a weird way to think about it?
Well, it depends on what the tattoos are. I mean,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what they were.
you don't know what they are now?
I mean, yeah, I didn't verify the accuracy before putting it on my body.
So you could have some like really obscene words on your
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping.
body.
I put a lot of faith in the tattoo artist.
You're insane.
I put a lot of faith in the tattoo artist. The one in Hebrew was when I did my birthright to Israel.
Okay.
I felt I had to do it. We were on Ben Yehuda Street in Jerusalem for about 3 hours, and the wait was 2 months. So I gave the guy $50, and he did me a tattoo. Yeah, so that was that. I'm trying to think what else.
I can't believe you have words on your body you don't know what they are.
I mean,
Did you like Google them? You should Google them. You should like yeah, Google them.
I went by what they said on the chart. Like, you know, they have signs in the shop. I mean, I'm being honest. Like, I don't want to lie for your show, right? Like, I want to be 100% authentic.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. That's funny.
Yeah, I think it's, so here's what I would say. I think it's the way, to me, the whole message is the way people view their bodies, right? And it's not that I'm not uptight about it. It's that I like to be, I've dealt with a lot of different things in my life. And I think people have when it comes to stress and personal things. And you'll see that laughing for me is therapy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's my message to myself, to not take certain things so seriously because they can end up breaking you. Absolutely, you know? Yeah. And I think, like, as deep as that might sound, that's kind of how I live. I'm like, yeah, like, I know I'm borrowing time and borrowing the body, but at the same time, I may have a little fun with it, you know?
Now, were you like this growing up? Like, were you just like,
you know, that's a good
crazy
question. So you've tapped into the good stuff, right? So I've always had issues with eating and being like a larger person. And I think luckily I've tapped more into my confidence and personality because there was a lot of issues that go along with that. I've had torment and, you know, I think a lack of female partnerships at a younger age because I was heavier, and that stuff took a toll on me. And I think that I probably poured it more into my personality and being that way on purpose.
Right.
So that allowed me to persevere, because otherwise the opposite is the opposite.
Sure.
And that's why I think, like, it's pretty hard for you to, like, really ring me. Like, I'm a fairly confident person. Mm-hmm. And I'm that way for a reason, you know, because if I feel like I take on the weight for a lot of people in my family, and I've always been that way. So, like, I want it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the guy that wants the ball in the game. Like, they give it to me. Right. And that's because of the proverbial that I've been through in life. Right. You know? So the answer is yes. I've had to learn through a lot. I mean, I was pretty big. Like, I graduated high school at 300 pounds. Wow. And then I was a football player. So there was a rationalization in my mind for why I was that big. But you realize it's not healthy. It's not really that socially accepted. And then I lost 80 pounds my sophomore year in college. Okay. And I connected with health and realized that those things became more important to me as I went through it. So the answer is yes, but to be consciously, I guess, understanding or knowing those things are going on, that comes with age. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I you know, to some people I can be a lot, but to me, it's like, that's how I am. That's just me, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's just, you know, I think that no matter what, I've always leaned on my communication skills and my affability and ability to connect and communicate with people as my strongest suit. Right. You know, so there's never been a bad date, a bad first date, because if you bad, I'm just going to keep talking. There's never been like a dry conversation. You know, it's just the way it's been. I don't know. And it's not good for podcasts sometimes when you want to be heard.
It's all right. I'm learning to like just butt in there.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, I think to sum me up, I'm a people person.
Yeah.
Like I feed off of that by far.
Right.
You know, and it's funny, like my wife and she is the nicest, smartest, most grounding person in the world. But like, it's what I needed. She is exactly the person I needed. You know what I mean? By far.
So you're like opposite?
No, I mean, she is very outgoing.
Okay.
Very, very sweet and nice and kind. But she's not obnoxious.
So you're opposite. That's what I meant. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess in that respect,
Yeah.
yeah. Like she's like, all right, volume 5. But yeah, and you don't even have to ask me about her. I'll just go right into it. By far the best person in my life. Like I've had very good mentorship. I'm a very strong father figure. He and I are extremely close in a lot of ways, but he's very, very business oriented, black and white. And I learned good things from that, but it's not as balanced as it should be. And he's alive. Maybe he'll see this and say, "Go F yourself." And fine, but that's part of my makeup.
Yeah.
So like I've had the stern, disciplined side. And then my mom's super sweet. She was the opposite. But Amy is that balance. Like she'll be like, "Yo, man, like you need to like live a little too."
Yeah.
Because I won't. I'll just work. Because work has and back to the mortgage stuff. Talk about a passion. Like if you can connect with this business and understand that it's such a social business, oh my God. It's like you become obsessed with it.
Yeah. For sure.
I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Now, if anybody wants to get in touch with you.
Oh, yeah. Superstarlender.com, baby. That's it, the one and done. And we can do anything together, yeah.
And where's your office?
I'm all over the place. Where are they located? They're in Chadsport, Pennsylvania. I live in South Jersey. I work out of the different Opus offices in Philly and Bucks County, and then pretty much wherever you want to meet, I can work.
Awesome.
I'm a nomad. A mortgage broker with an office is not a good mortgage broker, I've learned.
You think?
Yeah. Like, I can't sit still. Can you sit still?
Yeah. I'm not a mortgage broker.
Yeah, but you're smart. You gotta, you train the family. My kids are too young. You did great.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Rockstar Closers at the Vault.
I'm gonna trade my clerk for a Rockstar dame. Not even get my broker to change his game. Cause we all just wanna work with title rock stars and sell some hilltop houses closing 15 more. The cities come easy and the closings go quick. We'll all stay busy cause we just don't quit. And we'll